Our partners from the Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University Mid-La Union campus are also here with us. I can also see here Labo Progressive Cooperative. This is the one based in Camarines Sur, like Camarines Norte. I mean, producing fibers. Mario Spes, of course, is also here. Mike Caparols of Creative Definition is also here. Our friends from NCCA, Jean D, of course, is also here. Saffron Philippines, a very reliable partner, is also here. Textiles, CUP Manila, Ms. V Alvarez from CSB and Manila Bulletin is also here. And if I missed you guys, I hope you could identify. I changed one para makita po natin yung inyong mga affiliations. But just the same, welcome to the afternoon session, and thank you very much for joining us. So this morning, just to recap, we had some questions. We were not able to read all the questions that were provided to us via Facebook and via the Zoom. But we did mention a question from about the competitiveness question from Jasmine Romero of ABS-CBN. I hope the question of Noli Liwanag from Diario Pilipinas and the future of the textile industry, which we had as the last part, ito yung one word description was also answered. This was a question pitched by Noli Liwanag of Diario Pilipinas. The effects of the pandemic to the textile industry, I think, was the more lengthy discussion of almost all our speakers. And this was basically the question of Cathy Cruz, the program host of Tuklasin Natin. Also, the use of indigenous fabrics was lengthily discussed answered by Ana Lagon. This was a question fielded by Michael Balaguer from Diaryong Tagalog. Also, the mainstreaming was also part of the question. Also with from MJ Balaguer, I mean, yeah, and from BZ MJ Online. And the question on the ukay-ukay was also pitched to Ms. Ana Lagon earlier. This was a question from Cathy Cruz, a program host of Tuklasin Natin, and I think she also answered quite lengthily on that. On how to join the PFC, Sophia Therese, I think they gave you a link on the chat. Please try to search PFC and how you could possibly join the group and join their advocacies. And again, the last one was from Michael Balaguer of Diaryong Tagalog, encouraging the weavers. So this would have been a good question to be asked from Therese Tugade. But unfortunately, she was not able to join us anymore for the question and answer portion. There was a question on the utilization of kapok for textiles or for fabrics, again from MJ Balaguer of DZMJ Online. We can discuss that more lengthily later on. I'll be around. Other researchers will also be around. We did use kapok already for quite some time on different applications and as a raw material for different end uses. So yeah, I hope we're able to cover all those questions. Unfortunately, Yusek Aldaba and Ms. Carissa Evangelista were not able to join us anymore for the question and answer, but they are well noted. We will be around after the conference should you have more detailed questions again on any of the topics or maybe some that interest you. I and the rest of the team, the rest of the PTRI team will be happy to answer your question. For this afternoon session, we have, before we go to the third sub-theme of the conference, which is on sustainability, we will have, as this is also part of the celebration of the PTF month, the Philippine Tropical Fabrics Month, and of course, a commemoration observance of the RA 9242, we would like to look at it from the vantage point of how to enable not only RA 9242, but Philippine tropical fabrics. So this presentation basically scans and scopes the different strategies, at least from the vantage point of PTRI, and how we enable this law and this development. And who else could better present the enabling of PTF and RA 9242, and no less than the director of the Philippine Textile Research Institute. So without further ado, I now call on for her presentation, Director Celia B. Elumba.
Yes, I just wanted to give everyone a preamble to our Philippine Tropical Fabrics and RA 9242. So magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much for coming back to join us for this Activance presentation. I wanted to just preempt or preamble the rest of our discussions as it relates to Philippine Tropical Fabrics and RA 9242, which is the enabling law or the enabling act for the Philippine Tropical Fabric Law, which says that government employees must be wearing something that is made up of Philippine tropical fabrics. So just to recap, what exactly was the declaration of the policy? It was made to instill patriotism and nationalism among the people, especially public officials and employees. It was meant to promote the preferential use of locally manufactured goods that utilize local resources and adopt measures that help them make them competitive and thus generate wider employment and greater benefits to the country. So all of the things that were just indicated earlier really are very, it's resounding to all of us. Yeah, it's a vote of confidence. Like you're right, yeah, we want those. So tropical fabrics is anything containing natural fibers which have been produced. By produced, it means it's even grown in the country. It's spun, woven, knitted, and finished in the Philippines. So it's a beautiful piece of law, which basically saying I'm enabling industry to really participate in the economic activities that will bring more livelihood and more businesses to our country. So what does it mean in 2012 when then President Aquino declared or proclaimed the month of January as Philippine Tropical Fabric Month? It meant that it is to promote products that are indigenous to the country. These are with locally developed technologies using local resources as a tool in the generation of livelihood, as earlier mentioned. And so what does that mean? We have to source the funds to defray the cost of the celebration as we are having today, ensure that extensive research on the judicious utilization of local natural fibers continue, and that we have meaningful activities that we will undertake towards sustained development of the local textile industry. We hope that by bringing forward or by sharing with you a lot of this information and a lot of the resource persons, the information that they have shared with us, that in fact it will encourage, inspire, and bring all of us into a higher level of awareness in terms of what is truly Philippine tropical fabric. And as they have already shared in a lot of ways, we know our definitive strength. But you know what? Aside from this definitive strength in design, in our ability to live as a part of our tradition with the number of our social enterprises who are very much engaged and involved in not just social, but rather real commercial scale manufacturers who are really looking to make our own fashion, we actually have a lot of local technologies that have already been derived. The Philippine Research Institute Textile Research Institute have been at it for a number of years now, if not decades, on how we can really translate the raw material into a spinnable fiber that can then be made into yarn, which is a basis for the production of the woven or the knitted fabric. But you know what? Even if that were not the case, as Stanley had mentioned earlier, we're talking about non-wovens, which is a whole other sphere. So these opportunities abound, not just for handloom weaving, not just for the commercial scale manufacturers, not just for wovens and knits, and as I mentioned, non-wovens, but it really is double-fold. You have an economic value to this, but aside from that, there is cultural value that, as I had mentioned earlier, you can derive from these activities. And in one interview or in the interview earlier that was made, I had made the comment that we have to make a distinction between cost or price and value or merit. Is it meritorious? What value does it add to us? Do you prefer that lower cost versus one that has perhaps given jobs to 10 other people in your country versus 5 jobs in another country? I think those are the things that we're going to have to weigh in consideration for. The main key thing that I would like to bring across is while that is a consideration, it must never compromise on the quality. It must always be a demand. But you have to see here that close to 9 out of 10 Filipinos, in fact, do not really consider price. They are really looking to pay, they are willing to pay extra for products and services which stand for positive social and environmental impact, as a Nielsen Global Coffee Sustainability Report tells us. So what are we looking at PTF? We have 1.8 million government employees. In fact, one recent study said 1.9 million government employees. But if we just take one day of the 4 days of the week, we will need 5.4 million meters, which will require 0.7 million kilos of yarns, which will need 0.4 million kilos of spinnable fiber that will come from 1,600 hectares if we are looking at pineapple leaf in particular. Each material will have its own considerations because of the recovery percentage from each kind of material. What does it mean to us? If we take a look at what we have in the sphere of textile manufacture, we have a handful in the weaving industry, as Yusek had already earlier shared with us. Of the handfuls, only 3 of them can actually make that or weave the fabric. But it doesn't matter because it will only take them 4 months, 4.5 months to weave the 5.4 million meters of fabric that is required. Where our challenge is in the spinning, because if the spinning is left to its present day circumstances, we're going to require far more time it will take us to do the 1.2 or 0.7 million kilos of yarns. Another bottleneck is also going to be the pretreatment or the conversion of those raw materials into a spinnable form. If we consider what is presently available, it will take us 13 years. Guys, I won't be in government anymore. I won't get to taste or to sense or to feel this, right? So this is a challenge. And of course, the textile fiber extraction is yet another challenge. So this is why I posited earlier this statement: to go up, we need to go back, to go up the value chain, which means we're now able to generate all the jobs and livelihoods that producing this textile, beginning with the raw material extraction from the ground. We need to really ensure that backward supply chain. So we are propositioning, all of us in government as well as in the private sector who may be listening to this, how do we see this panning out? We'd like to be able to really offer a solution with RA 9242 as our pillar or our benchmark, our standard for a roadmap that will bring us to that next level of development. In the next 5 years, we hope to be able to achieve a 73% achievement in terms of the spinnable fiber requirement. That means that we're going to be looking at the development of raw material innovation hubs. I'm showing you one that is looking at the cottonization, or how we can then convert pineapple leaf, banana, abaca into a raw fiber that will be made into a spinnable yarn, a fiber that can go into a yarn, into a fabric production. And we have identified certain locations in the country, and this is not the most extensive. I mean, you'll pardon us if this is not the most complete, because I had earlier noted that we already are missing 2 particular locations. I will not mention who they are, but certainly we are still missing a number in this particular map. And this is really meant to power, in addition to active participation of all stakeholders, including our weaving mills, including our other government agencies, and with, of course, the support and help of the PS-based procurement system of the Department of Budget and Management. There is so much that we think can happen that can really inebriate, that can really put textiles empowering lives anew into real life or into fruition. So with this is just a framework that will show you from this National Textile Fiber Innovation Hubs. By the way, bamboo is not part of the equation because that's one of the other considerations. The IIR does not include bamboo yet, so we will go into that conversation. But if you consider that we have the RIPIC or even the ICYT of the PTRI and industrial mills or spinning mills, and you have both your handloom weaving communities, traditional textile manufacturers, as well as industrial weaving manufacturers as our key stakeholders or key downstream buyers or users for this product, they're going to design and product development. 100 million Filipinos is going to be an extremely robust business, not just for the 1.9 million Filipinos, but we will be very happy if we can start with 25% of the 1.9 million Filipinos to close for at least one day of the week. So for here, we really would propose that we convene the technical working group so that we may revisit and review the provisions of RA 9242. Like I mentioned, the IRR had not really indicated bamboo or other, fledgling natural textile fibers. And so we would request that we include other natural textile fibers as a component of PTF versus just the 3 that have been identified as silk, which is also another element because they're requiring 15% of silk. Include adherence to the Republic Act as a metric, a measure in the performance evaluation of government agencies. I think that this will really send a message to industry. Of course, it sends a message to government, but you know, government is not the issue. Government will do it for as long as the supply is available. I am sure that industry needs to hear that this is something that will be meaningful if we have these kinds of metrics or measures or part of the policy statement that government will make. We would also propose policies for the incentivization of the industrial textile mills supporting the implementation of the Republic Act, as well as review and approve the PTF roadmap, and the most important thing, provide budget and funding for the same purpose. So the gaps have been identified from our perspective. We invite all of our stakeholder partners here for a harmonized and integrated agenda, and so that we can then go forward with the quality and standards and policy guidelines identification and the authenticity and certifications of the material. There's much to discuss here, but to begin with, we would really like to say that all of our domestic production must already have country of origin labels, fiber or fabric identity labels, as well as care instruction labels as a beginning, as an entry point. And certainly we would really find mechanisms on how we may certify the authenticity of certain fabrics as a Philippine tropical fabric, among other things. So I thank you very much for giving me these few minutes to give us a preamble before we proceed with this afternoon's other activities and conversations. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much for that, Director Elumba, and for giving us an overview of the status right now and how we possibly could enable further the Philippine tropical fabrics as a material and the Philippine tropical fabrics law.